Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thank you for tuning in to Canal Algérie's nightly news for this Thursday. Coming up shortly. Al-Jaish magazine points out in its latest issue's editorial that Algeria is moving with steady steps in the path of stability and security. On the occasion of the 35th anniversary of the announcement of the establishment of the State of Palestine here in Algeria, the Ministry of War Veterans holds a conference at the nation's palace. In Gaza, the death toll keeps rising as the Zionist army attacks continue and the humanitarian situation is in constant deterioration. Further details to discover with our correspondent Wissam Abu Zaid. The African Startup Conference winds up with the adoption of the Algiers Declaration and the African Draft Charter on brain drain in the continent. And an umpteenth scandal shakes the Makhzen regime trying to hire agents in Belgium to manipulate the public opinion and intimidate the human rights activists. Welcome back. First off, New Algeria, a national orientation and honorable positions was the title of December's issue's editorial of Al-Jaish magazine. This issue was marked by the commemoration of the 63rd anniversary of December 11th, 1960's demonstrations, a major milestone in the path of our glorious liberation revolution. More indications with Melissa Kebash.
This month's edition of Al-Jaish editorial entitled A New Algeria, National Orientation and Honorable Position comes in a context marked by the 63rd anniversary of December 11, 1960 demonstrations, a milestone that reflects the Algerian people's determination and its will to snatch its independence, by this proving its attachment and adhesion to its revolution, led by the National Liberation Army until the recovery of our country's sovereignty. This journey constitutes an occasion to be inspired by the most beautiful and precious lessons of will, self-sacrifice and determination demonstrated by our ancestors to reach these set goals and objectives. It is also an opportunity to renew the oath of following the path they've traced in order to ensure that our memory and that of our youth evoke the glorious history of our country, that draw from it the necessary determination to pursue to the edification of a new Algeria, which 4 years after the election of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, our country is moving with steady steps towards the right direction in different sectors within a secure environment. Nothing could put an end to the spirit as underlined by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, in his keynote speech addressed during a gathering he held with economic operators at the end of the Entrepreneurship Days organized last month.
A national conference in solidarity with the Palestinian people was held in Algiers at the People's Palace. The event was organized by the Ministry of Mujahideen or War Veterans with an aim to commemorate 35 years of diplomatic relations between Algeria and the State of Palestine. Our own Melissa Kebash once again.
فإن المجلس الوطني يعلن باسم الله وباسم الشعب وباسم الشعب العربي الفلسطيني قيام دولة فلسطين فوق أرضنا الفلسطينية.
It was in the capital Algiers that Yasser Arafat declared before the National Liberation Organization Council of Palestine the creation of the Palestinian state with Al-Quds as capital. A telling evidence of the strong brotherly ties binding the two countries ever since 1988, as December 15 marks the recognition of the Palestinian state by Algeria, and the 18th of the same month, the establishment of diplomatic relations. This special date was commemorated at the International Center of Conferences by the Minister of Mujahideen through a national conference in solidarity with the Palestinian people, held under the motto وعقدنا العزم أن تحيا فلسطين.
thanks to the efforts deployed by the President of the Republic, that the Palestinian factions signed in Algiers the historical unification accord for one objective, that of a free and independent Palestine.
This historical date coincides this year with the complaint filed by Algeria to the International Court of Justice, an initiative launched by the President of the Republic with the aim of bringing before the ICC the perpetrators of this genocide and hold them responsible for their crimes against humanity since October the 7th.
In the Gaza Strip, the situation of the Palestinian refugees has never been so critical, an ever-growing deterioration of the living conditions that go beyond imagination, according to our correspondent Wissam Abu Zaid, who defied this unspeakable situation and provided us with this exhaustive report taken up by Ines Killu.
Since the beginning of the Zionist aggression, nearly 2 million Palestinians have been displaced to the south of the Gaza Strip, more than 82% of the Gazans' population. In Rafah, the situation is going from bad to worse. The Gazans are finding shelter under makeshift tents.
Tears do not leave our eyes. Our children have nothing to eat. There's not even toilets. My children have lost everything. I haven't seen my family for 63 days. They are scattered all over the refugee camps.
Several hundred displaced people have found refuge in the south of the Gaza Strip. This makeshift shelter houses nearly 60 people, including women and children, in deplorable conditions.
I found myself outside without shelter. We have no water, food, or medicine. Every day is a struggle. Every day we have to try to survive.
لا سبل عيشة موجودة
ولا موجود أي أمان الصواريخ بقول لك توجه رفح امبارح.
Nowhere is safe. Last night we were all frightened when we heard the sound of missiles. We don't know what to do. All we want is for this war to end.
مش عارفين ايش نعمل يا عم احنا بدنا نخلص الحرب.
Our Gaza-based correspondent Wissam Abu Zaid explains in this coverage that despite these barbaric aggressions and despite the inhuman conditions, the Palestinians refuse to give up or leave their land.
الفلسطينيون في مدينة رفح جنوب القطاع العدو من خلفهم.
In Rafah, the Palestinians are left to fend for themselves with their backs against the wall. Between these savage creatures with no mercy, the Gazans continue their struggle against the Zionist occupation, which has gone beyond the limits of international humanitarian law.
وسام أبو زيد التلفزيون الجزائري فلسطين.
This unbearable situation urged the United Nations via its Secretary General Antonio Guterres to call for an immediate intervention of the international community to end the untold suffering of the Palestinian civilian population. Salim Mirah reports.
While the Gazan population is still bearing the brunt of heinous attacks and a severe siege, the United Nations warns against a real collapse of the humanitarian order and a situation that constitutes a serious threat to peace and security across the world. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres renewed his call for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza as the public order could completely break down shortly and the humanitarian system is at a severe risk of collapsing due to the constant Zionist bombardment targeting civilians so far without shelter. This warning had been evoked by Algeria, which called for bringing the perpetrators before the International Court of Justice. Guterres expects the situation to go worse with the upsurge of epidemic diseases and mass displacement of the local population, which make the humanitarian operation almost impossible to carry out. The UN Secretary stressed the necessity to avoid the outcome of such unspeakable situation at all costs. Given the current critical situation, the international community is called upon now more than ever before to shoulder its responsibility and put an end to this genocide deemed as a powder cake likely to explode at any moment and devastate the whole region.
The second edition of the African Startup Conference came to an end. This edition witnessed the participation of over 30 countries with high-level ministerial representation from around the continent. At the end of the event that lasted 3 days, the Algiers Declaration and the African Draft Charter on brain drain in the continent were adopted, while the state's efforts in this regard were hailed. In other developments, the Minister of Trade and Promotion of Exports, Tayyip Zitouni, announced in Dar es Salaam, the Tanzanian capital, that the 12th meeting of the Council of Ministers of the African Continental Free Trade Zone adopted Algeria's proposal for the reformulation of the report on industry and investment in Africa. In Algerian-Tunisian cooperation, the Minister of Industry and Pharmaceutical Production, Ali Aoun, discussed alongside his Tunisian counterpart means and ways of the management and production of medicines between Algeria and Tunisia and intensifying coordination to guarantee high quality of pharmaceuticals. Subsequently, a memorandum of understanding was signed in the production and monitoring of medicines and intensifying production and its marketing for both countries. The Belgian television channel RTBF aired an investigation revealing the secret aspect of the Makhzen's policy of hiring agents and influential figures to shape the public opinion and intimidate the human rights activists rejecting the Makhzen regime's dictations. Ines Killou has more.
Ce soir, l'émission Investigation diffuse une enquête sur les méthodes de la diplomatie marocaine sur le sol belge, notamment pour défendre son point de vue dans le dossier du Sahara occidental. Ce territoire a été annexé par le Maroc illégalement au regard du droit international.
Aired on the Belgian channel RTBF, the investigation, entitled Morocco's Influential Representatives in Belgium, tracks the practices of the Makhzen and the careers of some of its agents in the country. The investigation focused on analyzing the position and statements of several Belgian political representatives on the Western Saharan issue. The investigation program focuses on Alexis de Soif, former president of the Belgian Human Rights League, who spoke out in 2018 and 2019 on the Western Sahara issue, which was not obviously appreciated by Morocco, which did not hesitate to voice its discontent through its ambassador Mohamed Ammar. Immediately, the diplomat requested a meeting to explain this point of view.
De faire pression, on voit qu'il y a les petits soldats à l'œuvre dans les pays, les ambassades.
It's a way to pressure and spread the efficient Moroccan diplomatic propaganda through the soldiers placed in every country and embassy, so as to reach lawyers, human rights organizations, and even journalists.
Des avocats, des organisations de défense des droits humains, mais j'imagine aussi envers des journalistes.
Other similar testimonies were collected by the Belgian media, and according to the investigation, political representatives even admit that they are threatened with electoral repercussions by Mohamed Ammar in person. This is reminiscent of the actions expressed in Morocco Gate scandal, because it should be noted that the Makhzen diplomacy moves with the help of its favorite weapons, which are blackmail and corruption, noting that the witnesses who were contacted by the investigation program wanted to speak without revealing their identity for fear of the Makhzen regime's retaliation.
Sport now. As part of the 9th week of the National Football Championship, Mouloudia of Algiers maintained its top position by beating Paradou AC with 1-0, scored by Abdellawi. MCA is leading now the standing with 24 points.
الارتقاء الجيد ربح الصراع عبد اللوي وبقدمه بالليل القدم الساحرة تقدم مرة أخرى تمريرة تمنح الأفضلية والتقدم لأنصار المولودية فوق.
And with that, tonight's bulletin comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your weekend.